Hey everybody, it's Danny Bradley here with Moscow Minutes. I'm going to be recapping the April 4th, 2022 Moscow City Council meeting. There were three main decisions that were made tonight. One had to do with the allocation of the ARPA grant funds. One had to do with fair housing, and the other had to do with the fiscal year 2023 budget hearing date. Before we get to those three decisions that were made, I have to tell you about two reports that were done. Number one was the Fair and Affordable Housing Commission's report. And the thing to highlight there is that there are 3 vacancies on that commission. So if you're interested in getting involved at the city level, it's an excellent way to do that. Number 2 was the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department annual report. And the thing to highlight there was that Brian Nickerson, the current fire chief, said that this past year, 2021, held the record for the amount of calls that they received that year. So now let's get into those 3 decisions that were made by the City Council. Number 1, like I said, has to do with the allocation of the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act, funds that Moscow received on December 20th, 2021. There are some avenues for local businesses and nonprofits to pursue to receive a portion of these grant funds. And so we had a handful of small businesses apply for this. There are still some businesses applying as well. And then we had 2 nonprofits also apply for some of these funds. So the businesses that applied are College Cabs, The Pour Company, Deep Roots Farm, Healing Point, and Cafe Artista. Now, there are some eligibility requirements having to do with, first and foremost, tax returns. You know, how long the businesses has been in existence. There were 2 businesses that were denied these funds because they were ineligible. College Cabs and The Pour Company. So they didn't quite meet those requirements. There were 3 businesses that did meet the requirements. Deep Roots Farm, Healing Point, and Cafe Artista. So the City Council decided to award each of those 3 businesses $15,000 from the ARPA grant funds. Now, when it comes to nonprofits, we had 2 applicants in discussion tonight. Number 1, the Moscow Food Bank. The City Council decided to award them $25,000 from the ARPA grant funds. Number 2 was the L'Etat Recovery Center. Now, they applied for $200,000, and the City Council decided to table the discussion on how much to grant them because the way the current language is written up for how nonprofits can apply is vague. It's unclear as to how much or what the cap is that these nonprofits can actually receive from the ARPA funds. So the City Council decided to table that and clarify that language, revisit that and amend that language in the future. So no funds have been granted to L'Etat Recovery Center yet from ARPA. Okay, so number 2 has to do with fair housing, like I said. The City of Moscow is an Idaho Community Development Block Grant grantee. So that means that they are required to follow practices and obligations to affirmatively further fair housing in Moscow. So one of the actions they took tonight was they actually declared April as Fair Housing Month to be in accordance with their requirements and obligations from the fair housing grant that they received. The last one here had to do with the setting of a date for the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 budget. Each year, by city code, the city is actually required to notify all of L'Etat County prior to April 30th of when a public hearing will be for the fiscal year budget. So tonight, the City Council decided to set August 1st, 2022 as the public hearing date for the 2023 budget. Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to Moscow Minutes. I'm Danny Bradley. Tune in again in a couple weeks to hear the next meeting recap.